Hello, Copic in the Craft Room friends. Michelle Houghton here. I have a brand new stamp from my friend Stampin Steve. This is his first ever stamp design, Bountiful Blessings, and I have stamped it in ink on 3, which is this newer ink to me that I'm doing a little no-line coloring with. So this is all about fall, and I'm going to start with the pumpkins, and then we've got some leaves and pear and apple and all sorts of stuff in here. So this is going to be a longer video, and so there's definitely some fast forward, and it's going to be pretty high speed in order to get it all in. This image takes a little over an hour to actually get done. Now you're going to notice on the pumpkins I do this in sections so I don't lose track of the lines. I realized right away that if I didn't come in and touch on those little, there's some little swirls that are little vine work. So I used a multi-liner to fill those in. And on the pumpkins, I'm using a group of 3 colors, Y38, then YR14, and YR18. Those are the 3 I'm using. And it's a great pumpkin combination. But what you're going to notice is after that first segment, I'm going to switch from coloring light to dark. Now I'm coloring dark to light. So I'm laying in that YR18 first, and that's going to help me maintain those edges. And then I'm coming in with the YR14 and then the Y38, and that's going to blend as I go. And so it's going to hold on to those sections, and I can do one more sections at the same time because I've laid in those edges, creating that roundness right from the get-go. If you're coloring light to dark, you're going to want to do one section at a time so you don't lose those lines as you go. All right, next I'm going in and hitting all these little stems, and I've got these 2 pumpkin stems with E23 and then E27, but I've got several other stems. There's a small kind of what I think is probably more like a yellow or white pumpkin off to the side. We've got an apple, and I actually miss one stem. I come back later and get that. But I've got those guys marked in place using a little E27 to get some of that texture, and the ends marked as well, and softening that. So now I've got a series of YG93. This is an odd one. This is this kind of flat little pumpkin off to the side. It might be a different kind of squash. But I was thinking kind of that white grayish green color. And then I've got a W3. And then I'm going to try E40 with it, or E40. But I feel like it gets, I don't know, too grayish, and so I come back in with E50 to warm it up a little bit, and I feel like that got it more to where I wanted it. I'm really just playing with color here, so you guys are seeing some experimenting. And I find another stem, so I'm adding that in. Next we've got another squash kind of laying over on its side. I've got Y32 and Y35, and then I'm going to soften both of those with an E50. I realized I need the stems for all the leaves, so that was with multi-liners, and now I'm going over to the sunflower to the far right. I'm using the Y38 to kind of block in all those petals. And then I've got Y 3-5 and Y3-2 that are going to come in on those petals as well as I start kind of fleshing those out. Again, because I'm going dark to light, it's blending as I go, so I don't have to do a lot of back and forth. I'm going to realize here part way through or just about finishing that I missed. There's some leaves that come through from the opposite side that are leaves as part of the corn. And so the husk. And so I put some E50 down on those to get that quite a bit lighter. And then I'm using YG93 with that E50 to kind of create that light husk. And a little bit of G20 as well. The corn is Y38 and then Y32. Trying to create that texture, individual dots with that Y38 and softening with the Y32. I started with Y32 on the pear, but then I'm adding G20 and YG93. And that's kind of going back and forth between those three colors on that. Jumping back over with some colorless blender on the corn. I'm slowly dotting this. You can't tell because the speed the video is moving, but I'm holding that marker down 2 to 3 seconds on each little spot or kernel. YG95 is coming in on all the little leaves. So I added those stems first, remember, with the multi-liner. And now I'm coming in with YG93 and I'm going through and adding all of these little leaves. And about midway through as I'm coloring all these leaves, I noticed I've actually completely left something out or colored over something more specifically. So you're going to see me come back to that here as soon as I get the leaves all filled in. So I've got all these branches, kind of long stems, and then I realize, oh my gosh, there's a whole nother leaf I've missed in between the corn and the squash. So I'm actually going to add that back in. And I think I get it pretty squared away. I'm going to say it's an oak leaf that was changing and fell. So I started with the YG93, but then I'm adding the YR18 and Y32 to make it really look fall-like and kind of pop, kind of tucked in there, and the YG93 again for vein work. YG99 is going right into the center of each of those little leaves, coming down near the base, kind of one tiny little flick out to finish those. Darkening up the corn husk a little bit. I feel like it got lost in there, so a little more YG on that. Sunflower back in the center, a little E27 and E50 to add texture. The base was that E23 I also used on the stems. Now I've got this, I do have a little apple tucked in here, so a whole series of reds. R39, definitely working in reverse here. And then R37, R35, and R32. I know, 4 markers in such a tiny space. But again, working from dark to light, that allows not to put too much ink down. Now I'm kind of blocking out this cornucopia. I'm starting with an E23, and I thought that was going to be dark enough. You're going to see me come in with a darker color here in a few minutes, because I come in now with my lightest, which is the E31, and I'm blending those edges and into the center, and I realize, this is going to still look a little flat. So I jump back in with E25 and hit those bottom corners, and I don't come all the way around each section, but it's going to help add more dimension, a little more shape to each of those little woven pieces. So now coming back with the E31, coming into each of those little sections, filling that in, and then I'll attack the body of the cornucopia about the same. I'm going to work from dark to light, kind of blocking out that shape and those sections with the E27 first, and then the E23 to broaden those and get those heavier, and then finishing with the E31 and a little back and forth. And I really want to push back the interior of the cornucopia, and you wouldn't have to go this extreme or this dark, but I'm going all the way to an E29, which is very dark. You could do something like an a V99, which has kind of a bluish tone to it and would be very, very pretty. This just happened to be on my table already. You could argue you maybe could see part of that pumpkin from behind that leaf, but I'm just filling those pieces in. And what I've got left is the background, so I'm speeding this up crazy fast. Just a B41 in the back. And then on the ground, you're going to see a series of E4s. Two E4s, E43 and E47 for that cast shadow or that base underneath the objects. I ended up coming back and squaring off the sky. I decided I really wanted it more of a regular shape on top instead of that kind of half circle. And I like it a whole lot better. And you'll see the finished product here in a few minutes. Huge thank you to Stephen. I am so glad you are creating stamps. I hope there are more to come, but congrats on this first one. Again, you can find those at StampAnnieThing.com. If you haven't checked out my live stuff going on, check me out at scrapweaver.com and make sure to sign up for the newsletter. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a happy, colorful day.